Bonjour et bienvenue sur Straight Through the Channel. In this video, we are going to look into how to use the present tense with pronominal verbs. But first, let's remember what pronominal verbs are. Pronominal verbs are verbs that must be used with a tiny word called a reflexive pronoun. They are often referred to as reflexive verbs. The reflexive pronouns are me, om apostrophe, te, or t apostrophe, se, or s apostrophe, nous, vous, and ce, s apostrophe. And they translate literally as myself, yourself, etc. One of the pronominal verbs that you may be familiar with is s'appeler. So when you say je m'appelle, you actually are saying literally I myself call, or I call myself. There are three main kinds of pronominal verbs. The first one is reflexive verbs, when the action is performed by the subject onto themselves. So, for example, se laver, to wash oneself, or se demander, to ask oneself or to wonder. Reciprocal verbs is when the action is performed by two or more people, to each other or together. For example, se disputer, to argue, or s'embrasser, to kiss. These ones are only used with plural subject because you need several people to be able to do the action. And finally, the most complicated one is called essentially pronominal verbs. That's grammar for you. It's just a complicated way of saying that these are verbs that only exist with that tiny word in front of them. They cannot be used without it. So, for example, s'évanouir, to faint, or se souvenir, to remember. Apart from these essentially pronominal verbs, all of the other pronominal verbs exist both as a classic version and a reflexive version with that tiny pronoun. So, for example, réveiller is to wake, as in to wake someone up, but se réveiller is to wake oneself, to wake up. So, to use these verbs in the present tense, first of all, you're going to have to add the reflexive pronoun, or the tiny word. And then it's going to work the same way as regular verbs if your pronominal verb is regular. So you're going to take the infinitive, or the dictionary version of the verb, and remove its ending, either er, ir, or re, and replace it with the present tense endings. If you can't remember how to conjugate the present tense, please don't hesitate to look at the video I made on this subject. So if we take the verb se réveiller, to wake up, we're going to add our tiny word, or pronoun, and then we're going to remove the er ending and add our present tense endings. And that will give us je me réveille, tu te réveilles, il, elle se réveille, nous nous réveillons, vous vous réveillez, il, elle se réveille. I know the nous and vous might sound a bit weird, but I assure you it is the right way of saying it. One quick note, if you want to use these pronominal verbs with a negation, the reflexive pronoun, so the tiny word, is part of the verb. So you need to make sure you place the whole thing, the pronoun and the verb, in between ne and pas. So for example, je ne me réveille pas. So all you need to remember when you need to conjugate a pronominal verb is to add the reflexive pronoun, or tiny words, right after your subject and just before your conjugated verb. And also, don't forget that the tiny word becomes even tinier in front of a vowel sound. You can find my present tense cheat sheet on my website as per the link in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Merci et à bientôt sur Straight Through the Channel.